Greetings. Welcome to the 2024 Annual Research Roundtable on Organizational Leadership presented by Regent University. This presentation is Organizational Culture to Assist Women Veterans. I am Hellena Pugh, a United States Marine Corps veteran and Doctorate of Business Administration candidate at the University of Texas at Dallas. I am the founder of ZaharaVets Network, a nonprofit organization established to connect women veterans to each other and to resources that assist their unique needs. Today, I will review a brief history of the service of women to the United States Armed Forces, discuss current challenges of the women veteran community, identify a problem plaguing women veterans, and present a solution, as well as highlight an organizational strategy to assist the women veteran community. History of women in military service. Before earning the official right to serve our nation, women served in temporary roles with more than 1,500 serving during the Spanish-American War. When World War I began in 1917, even though women could not register to vote, more than 21,000 signed up for temporary military service, and they worked as nurses, clerical assistants, telephone and radio operators, and translators in support of the nation's war. At the beginning of World War II, these temporary roles were reinstated, and along with the slogan of "Free a Man to Fight," more than 400,000 women would volunteer for military service. Those veterans remained the largest group of women to serve during a single wartime. Their service would also lead to the 1948 signing of the Women's Armed Services Integration Act, which made women permanent members of all U.S. armed services. Women would continue to serve throughout the wars of Korea, Vietnam, and the Gulf War eras, as well as during peacetime operations. Women would also branch out and be allowed to serve in more military occupational specialties. The next largest service time of women in the military was the combined wars of Operation Enduring and Iraqi Freedom, where more than 700,000 women served in the U.S. Armed Forces. Current challenges. 3 of the biggest challenges facing the women veteran community today is homelessness, suicide, and military sexual trauma. Between the years of 2020 and 2023, the overall rate of veterans experiencing homelessness decreased by 4.5%. But for women veterans, the rate of women experiencing homelessness increased by 24%. In addition to the increase for the overall rate of women veterans experiencing homelessness, the rate jumped nearly 48% for women veterans who were living in streets or in cars or in what is considered unsafe conditions. Part of this rise in homelessness amongst women veterans is related to pre-existing trauma, experiences with military sexual assault, or the increased rise in intimate partner violence. In addition to homelessness, the suicide rates for women increased by 24.1% between the years 2020 and 2021, which is vastly higher than the 2.6% of non-veteran women or civilian women that commit suicide. One of the other challenges that exist within the women veteran community is that there's almost a 50-50 split between the ages of women committing suicide, being 50% under the age of 50 and 50% being over the age of 50. Traditionally, in America, women over the age of 50 don't commit suicide. So with a very large number of women veterans over the age of 50 committing suicide, it tells us that the women veteran community is really negatively impacted by mental health disorders and other situations that would lead a person to committing suicide. In addition to the homelessness rates and the increase with suicide rates, military sexual trauma is reported by 1 in 3 women that are enrolled for health care at the Department of Veteran Affairs. There are a lot of new programs in place to assist women who have been impacted by military sexual trauma. However, the NIH report that was included with this presentation shows that when a woman shows up for military service, almost 40% of them have already experienced some form of either child molestation or sexual trauma as a child or teenager. By the time these women then complete their military service, close to 70% are reporting having been impacted by military sexual trauma. So it's not only a problem within the military community that military sexual trauma is impactful to women veterans, but it's impactful to our nation as a whole. We have to prevent and reduce the numbers of children and young people who are experiencing sexual trauma. That is for both men and women before they even enter our military services. But the rates of military sexual trauma are increasing for both male and female, or men and women veterans. The quote, happiness depends upon ourselves, has been attributed to Aristotle. Aristotle believed that eudaimonia was a state of human flourishing or happiness. So it actually is not simply being happy in the moment, but eudaimonia was that there was an ability for the human to manifest excellence, which would lead to a well-lived life or personal happiness. So not simply one good act or one good deed, but really learning to live through your purpose was the best way to humanly flourish or obtain this state of eudaimonia. So what I liked about the term flourishing when I looked it up in the Webster's 1828 dictionary, where it stated that to flourish is to thrive, to grow luxuriantly, to increase and enlarge, to be prosperous, to increase in wealth or honor, to grow in grace and in good works, to abound in the constellations of religion, to be in a prosperous state. Now, how do we apply that to today's women veterans after we've listened to some of the challenges and some of the experiences that women have had simply trying to serve their nation? Well, ultimately, I do believe that reaching a state of eudaimonia or a state of humanly flourishing is partially the responsibility of the individual. I do believe that there are organizational cultures or programs or services that can be put in place that a woman veteran can then utilize to help increase her status in life or to alleviate an ailment or a situation or an experience that she has had. But the ability to grow from those experiences the responsibility to grow from those experiences will ultimately fall on the individual woman veteran. So when I looked more into human flourishing, it is simply a concept that is discussed in both the Old and New Testaments of the Holy Bible. From the beginning, in the book of Genesis, it established mankind, but it also established the importance of a relationship with God. So that would tell me that if I am going to humanly flourish, and I believe that God is my creator, then I have to have a sound relationship with my creator so that I can learn the ways and the will that he would have for my life in order for it to humanly flourish. So I looked at the 92nd chapter of the book of Psalms, which basically is a reflection of the ebb and flow of a redemptive relationship, right? It begins with praise for the Creator. It goes on to acknowledge his work. It references how mankind can fail, but ultimately talks about the grace that God gives us and then confirms the expected end of the enemy. And it ends with an exaltation of praise of the Lord forever. So when I look at Psalm 92, the passage of Psalm 92, verses 12 through 15 in the New International Version, it says, "The righteous will flourish like a palm tree. They will grow like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of the Lord. They will flourish in the courts of our God. They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green, proclaiming the Lord is upright. He is my rock and there is no wickedness in him. So then the importance of establishing and maintaining a relationship with the Creator or with God will help us reach a state of human flourishing, because we're then depending on God to teach us, to guide us, and to help us when we encounter challenges. So for me, I think one of the ways that we can first encourage women veterans to humanly flourish is to, in addition to all the other things that the organizations will put into place, having a faith-based response to the challenges that are faced by the woman veteran is incredibly important. Incredibly important. One of the biggest challenges right now to the woman veteran community is, in fact, the woman veteran herself. Women veterans have the reputation of being kind of elusive. You really don't see them. They're not at a lot of the veteran events. They don't get a lot of representation through other veteran organizations or things of that nature. But the fact of the matter is that the biggest challenge to the woman veteran community overall is the woman veteran herself. She's not showing up. Even as it relates to getting health care at the Department of Veteran Affairs, she's not utilizing that health care services. And, there are lots of challenges and there are a lot of issues with why a woman veteran wouldn't show up, but really the absence of the woman veteran is what is hurting the woman veteran community the most. So I want to encourage all women veterans to, get active, get with an organization, volunteer your time, donate funds. I've had women veterans who were at an event that I was hosting, eating the food that I had paid for out of my pocket, telling me that they don't give towards women veterans, they give towards the local animal shelter. You're actually eating my food while you're looking me in the face and telling me this, but that is where we are in today's society. This is where the woman veteran organization is. So it's great to be able to, when I was hosting those monthly events and people say, oh yeah, we enjoyed this event, this, that, and the other. You enjoyed it, but these events don't take place on their own, and they need to be supported. There were some times when I would host monthly events and there'd be one woman veteran that would show up for the event. And you have, 20, 25 people that signed up and then one person that actually shows up. That's very impactful. It's one of the reasons why I'm okay with not hosting in-person events. They were a lot. It was a lot financially to host them, and then you go through preparing speakers and getting PowerPoints and slideshows together and getting the venue together, and then you get there and a handful of veterans show up. It's not very helpful at all. So women veterans today, to help out the women veteran community, really just need to show up. I have worked within the woman veteran community since 2016, and one of the major problems I have seen is that women veterans go unnoticed, undiscussed, and unaddressed by most of their lawmakers and by most of the major organizations that actually could help women veterans improve the situation for the entire community. So the solution to that is that women veterans have to start showing up. They have to have conversations where they identify as being veterans and where they talk about the challenges that are impacting the women veteran community. Until women veterans show up, their issues and their challenges are not even on the table for discussion of most of our lawmakers. So they have to get involved. While there are challenges for the women veteran community, there are several accomplishments that women veterans also achieve. Women veterans have a higher rate of education than veteran men and higher levels of degrees than civilian women. Women veterans are the fastest growing group of business owners in the nation, and in 2015, they generated more than $10 billion in revenue. Women veterans have a higher household income than civilian women, and they are less likely to live in poverty. Also, the average age of the woman veteran is much younger than that of the male, at only 50 for women veterans and 65 for veteran men. There are several ways that government, corporate, and faith-based organizations can help women veterans humanly flourish. Everything from redesigning the TAPS program to helping women veterans utilize the home loan program so that they can avoid homelessness or dependability and help reduce the risk of intimate partner violence simply from trying to have a place to stay. Corporations can help women obtain certifications and enter markets in industries that have not been welcoming towards women. They can do so by partnering with women veterans to help teach them the trade and get them the certifications they need to get started in business. There are several things that can happen and we can do to help our women veterans flourish, and hopefully organizations will start to implement these programs more frequently. Thank you for viewing this presentation. I look forward to our discussions.